Canes fans, opening night is finally here. After waiting for what seemed like forever, it's here. It's time to preview tonight's opening night game against the Ottawa Senators in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this opening night. I am so excited. But before we get into it, I want to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at Sleeper. Use promo code Locked On NHL and download the Sleeper app to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Now, getting into opening night, it feels like we've been waiting forever for this, and it's finally here. And I am super, super excited. I got the day off from work. After we get done with the episode, I'm going to go start making my pregame food and all of that, getting ready for this. I am so excited, and I know you guys are as well. And the Hurricanes, they're hoping for their fifth straight opening night win, this time against the Ottawa Senators. This is going to be fun. Heck, the Hurricanes put out a phenomenal game graphic on their social media, kind of like the movie 300. It said, give them nothing. And then, if you've seen the movie, read the comic, but take from them everything. Yes, that is the mentality we need to have for this game. The catchphrase for this game, in years past, we've had take warning, let's go Canes. This year it's cause chaos, and I am here for that. And all the branding looks like a 2000s metalcore album too. Like, you can't tell me like the one they put out today, you don't see that on the back of a CD and FYE in the 2009 or something like that. But let's talk the game. What to expect from tonight's game, folks. First off, much like these past couple of years where we've had a lot of turnover, expect some growing pains. This is going to be something you're going to be expecting. Probably like for the next month and a half or so, while these new guys get settled and get used to the system and all of that stuff. That's going to be expected. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that, but it is worth mentioning because you're not going to come in, Dmitry Orlov or Michael Bunting. We'll talk more about them later. But they're not going to come in and be overall 99 on an NHL video game. That's not going to be the case. There's going to be some times, much like Brent Burns last year. You remember at the start of the season, there's some growing pains there. Obviously look good, but there's definitely still some moments. And then as the season progressed, got more used to the Hurricane system and the way they do things got better. So expect that tonight, honestly. I'm fully expecting it, and you guys should be too. So don't get too frustrated at them. I know we all will, but it's going to be expected. Just like with any sports team ever, you get a new guy in there, there's going to be some growing pains getting used to the system. Now, honestly, I just mentioned Brent Burns a second ago. I honestly am expecting a big game from him tonight. Like I mentioned, last year at the start, there was some growing pains and whatnot, but as the season went along, really settled into his role with the team, got used to it, and now he's had a full season, 2 training camps, 2 preseason to get used to the Hurricanes' way of doing things. And last year, he set the record for most points in a season by a Hurricanes defenseman. And I honestly just kind of expect that momentum to continue into this game tonight. And then also, it's worth noting, given passes in the past, that doesn't necessarily dictate what's going to happen. But in 25 career games against the Ottawa Senators, he has 24 points. So, history is on his side in that regard. And I remember opening night last year, how I forget who it was on Columbus. but he got in a bit of a scrap with them and really endeared himself to the fans pretty early on. Speaking of that, I fully expect, Michael Bunting to be in the same boat. Yeah, again, expect the growing pains from him, for this first part of the season. But, they brought him in to be a pest. I'm expecting him to do that tonight. I expect him to show why they brought him in. I fully expect that from him tonight. Does he have, a super great game? I don't know. I do not know, but I expect him to show why they brought him in. And much like Brent Burns last year, quickly endear himself to the Hurricanes faithful. Fully expecting that tonight. And if Brendan Lemieux plays, we'll talk a little bit more about roster predictions and lineup predictions and all of that later on tonight. Should he play, I kind of expect the same thing there as well. Tony D'Angelo also, yeah, he's not as physical, but I expect him to to those guys to really be trying to get under guys' skin and force the Senators to make mistakes, draw those penalties, give the Hurricanes power play options. That's really what I'm expecting from these guys tonight. Bunting, especially, it's pretty much a lock that he be in the opening night lineup. The other guys, not so much, but we'll talk more about them later. And then finally, Brady Shea and Brett Pesce. There's been a lot of talk about those guys this offseason. Of whether or not they will be traded, whether they won't be traded. They're both entering the last year of their respective contracts. Teuvo Teravainen as well. But these guys, I am fully expecting them to have real good showings tonight and good showings throughout the season. Brady Shea last year, he was tied with Brent Burns for third most goals by a defenseman in the NHL, had a career year in terms of points, and was phenomenal last year. And Brett Pesce's obviously always really solid for the Hurricanes, and it's contract year for him. Just like in any sport, these guys are really going to try to show out this year, and in their cases, like show the Hurricanes, hey, don't trade me. You need to keep me around. Or, like, all right, deal isn't going to get done here. Okay, that's fine. I'm still going to show out. So, say whoever, I get traded to or whoever I sign with in the offseason, whatever it may be. First of all, I don't see the Hurricanes letting these guys walk and getting nothing for them because I do think they could get nice returns for both of them. But show these other teams like, hey, you should pay me. I'm fully expecting it from these guys tonight. Obviously, they got a couple others, as well. Like Seth Jarvis. He's entering the last year. He's of his deal, but he's a RFA. I believe Martin Necas, he's a RFA as well. But the Hurricanes have more leverage in those situations, so we're not really going to talk about that. But those guys right there, fully expecting them to come out swinging this season and tonight especially. Fully expecting that because they're trying to prove themselves, trying to get themselves that extension or new deal, with some other team. Fully expecting that from those guys tonight. But you then look on the other side of the ice. Vladimir Tarasenko ended up signing with the Senators. He was a guy that was really closely linked to the Hurricanes for quite a while this offseason. Then, of course, we all know what happened. Looked like it was going to happen. Then he fired his agent, back to square one, and now he's with Ottawa. So, I could, part of me wants to say, I could see him or see the Canes be like, hey, man, should have came here. And then, prove to him why he should have came to Raleigh versus Ottawa. And on the flip side, I could also see Tarasenko being like, hey, this is what you're missing out. You should have paid me. You should have paid me the money that you paid Dmitry Orlov. I could totally see that happening. But honestly, with all of this stuff, the growing pains, big game from Burns, Bunting being a pass, Shea, Pesce, Teravainen, Tarasenko, all those guys, it's just stuff we got to wait and see till 7 o'clock tonight when puck drop is at PNC Arena on the 23-24 season. But we did get the opening night roster put out yesterday, and we will talk about that and then kind of what I'm predicting for the lineups right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, I mentioned earlier about Sleeper, and the NHL season is finally here. Carolina Hurricanes fans, this season we've been waiting for a season like this, fully confident that they can really make a deep run. And you guys know I love the NHL. Obviously, I know you guys love it also. And I'll tell you about the Sleeper app. The Sleeper app is the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL network, and it's my go-to for daily fantasy sports and especially for daily fantasy hockey. You guys know me. You guys know I love to play fantasy hockey, love to play fantasy basketball. Even though I'm terrible at it, I love to play fantasy football. Same with Sweet Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy. Now, folks, the NHL has never been more exciting than it is now with studs, on the Carolina Hurricanes like Sebastian Aho, like Jacob Slavin across the league, like Alex Ovechkin, Connor McDavid, Cale McCart. And all you have to do is just pick more or less on the stats for the season from these stars, like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, all that stuff. And you heard me, Canes fans, 100 times payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right, and you could win big. So use promo code Locked On NHL, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL, LOCKEDON NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Now, folks, another thing I want to talk to you about is BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, and I have used BetterHelp before in the past. I personally love it. This is why I can attest, guys, BetterHelp is great. Now, BetterHelp is now it's now, folks, do you ever feel like your brain is getting in the way? Like, you know what you should do and what's good for you, but you just can't do it. Again, I've been there. I've used BetterHelp, and therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself. Again, I have benefited from therapy from BetterHelp in the past. And whether or not you've been in therapy personally, this is some fucking hell. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp, folks. And do you ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? I know happens to me all the time. And like, you know what you should do and what's good for you, but you just can't do it. Therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of going against yourself. I've used BetterHelp for years. I personally can vouch for this one. It has helped me a lot get to a better place mentally. And it's something that I cannot recommend enough. It was something that I really, really needed, and it helped me tremendously, folks. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try, folks. I cannot recommend it enough. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. When it comes to switching, work schedules can be hectic sometimes, and it's super easy to go in there, change your appointment time, and have that connection with your therapist. These folks, they care about you and they want to help you out. And I care about you as well, and I want to help you out as well. So make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnhl to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnhl, folks. I cannot recommend this enough, folks. BetterHelp is a phenomenal service. It has helped me a lot, and it can help you a lot as well. Now, getting back into the opening night roster, this is something that obviously everyone's always looking forward to. And we got our opening night roster yesterday. Obviously, the Carolina Hurricanes, they made their AHL moves, sending guys wherever. Obviously, I know there was some discourse about Peter Kochetkov getting sent down, and he is now with Syracuse, which is Tampa Bay's AHL affiliate. He obviously is not going to play for Tampa Bay. He's just playing for their AHL team. He is under contract with the Hurricanes. He cannot play with them. And personally, I'm fine with that. I would rather him get those reps in, and rather than just sit up in the press box and gather dust. Now, we're going to start with the forwards. Again, this was put out yesterday afternoon. Now, we have Jordan Staal, Jack Drury, Sebastian Aho, Steph Nason, Seth Jarvis, Brendan Lemieux, Andrei Svechnikov, Jordan Martinook, Michael Bunting, Jesper Fast, Spiri Kotkaniemi, Teuvo Teravainen, Martin Necas. Those are your forwards for tonight on your opening night roster. Defense, you have Jalen Chatfield, Dmitry Orlov, Brent Burns, Brett Pesce, Jacob Slavin, Brady Shea, and Tony DeAngelo. Goaltenders, Frederick Anderson, Antti Raanta. No surprise there. Now, Svech, he is still on injured reserve. He is supposed to be close to coming back. I said the other day, I obviously would love to see him on opening night. We all would, but at the end of the day, don't want to rush this. We saw what happened with Max Pacioretty, obviously different injury, but he came back early and then was out for the remainder of the season after only a couple games. So we don't want that to happen again. So give Svech the time he needs. And from what I saw, he's also not going to go with the team on that West Coast road trip that the Hurricanes take every year during the state fair. So, yeah, I'm fine with it. Yeah, it sucks. Ain't going to see him on opening night playing, but, it is what it is. I would much rather him need to take an extra few weeks than to re-injure himself and be out the year. Plain and simple. I'd rather have that. Now, when it comes to lineup predictions, a lot of these, you pretty much know what you're gonna get. All right, on your top lines, probably gonna be the same. Your your third line, what your third line is gonna be. That's Martinook, Staal, and Fast. Plain and simple. That's what that's gonna be. Now, I'm honestly thinking at this point it'll be Jack Drury centering that fourth line, and then you're having Steph Nason alongside of him, and we'll see who else ends up slotting next to him, and the defense is really where the questions come in, because that's been something we talked about a lot this offseason, how they're going to handle that log jam that they have at the defenseman position. Now, you pretty much know what your top two pairings are going to be, and that's Slavin Burns, Orlov, and Pesce. And you pretty much know those. And Brady Shea, he then gets slid down to the third pairing. Who goes next to him? That's the big question. Is it Tony DeAngelo? Or is it Jalen Chatfield? It's one I don't know. I really and truly don't know the route they're going to go here. Obviously, we saw what Jalen Chatfield is capable of last season. He forced their hand into keeping him on the NHL roster rather than sending him down to the AHL. Same with Steph Nason. They forced their hands on that, which is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Love it. Love to see it. But then they bring Tony DeAngelo back this offseason, and we know what he's capable of offensively. So, I see it from that side of things, but defensively can definitely be a liability. And you know, maybe putting him with Brady Shea, who has his issues defensively as well. Maybe that's not the best pairing to roll with of Shea and D'Angelo, but it's one I could definitely see happening. Maybe I just don't know on this one. I think that third pairing is really one we're just gonna have to wait and see what they decide to do here in a few hours when that stuff gets put out. What the lineup's gonna be. We'll just have to wait and see. When it comes to Brind'amour being another odd man out, I don't see him playing tonight. I definitely see him being a guy, he's out in a suit, for the opening night stuff, and he's up to the press box. That's kind of what I'm seeing there. But we're just gonna have to wait and see on that. It's interesting, how deep the Hurricanes roster is, and because in the past it's like, okay, you're obviously rolling with this, and now it's like, oh man, I don't necessarily know what we're gonna do there. Um, so it's gonna be a very fun night for sure. You're gonna have guys out there that can get under guys' skin. For sure. Again, Michael Bunting, he's going to be in the opening night lineup. Seen speculation of him potentially being on that top line with Aho and Jarvis. We'll wait and see what happens tonight. But I'm fully excited for this stuff. We can speculate all day on where guys are going to slot in, but at the end of the day, it's really these newer guys that are the issue of figuring out where they're going to go. Uh, the other guys, you pretty much know what you're going to get. And it was practice this morning. Frederick Anderson was in the starters crease. No surprise there at all. You pretty much expected that. Again, much like Sebastian Aho is going to be your first line center. You just expect it, really and truly. And one thing that was put out there was do they go 11-7 tonight? Since they do have that extra defenseman, I personally say no, they're not going to do that. They're going to roll with the traditional 12-6. That's what they're going to go with. They're not going to go 11-7 on opening night. They're just not. It's not going to do it. Barring some crazy accident, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Plain and simple. Just not going to happen. And like I said, Svetch still on IR. Again, Bunting and Orlov will be making their regular season debuts. Looking forward to that. Lemieux, again, I definitely think he's probably going to be sitting tonight, but we're just going to have to wait and see. But it is opening night, folks, and we've all had good opening night memories, and I want to share a couple of mine with you, as well as some I got from other Locked On NHL hosts, and we will dive into those right after this quick break, folks. Now, everyone should feel empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase case. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind, so you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivered and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using code Locked On NHL at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Now, I want to share with you guys some of my favorite opening night memories because it's opening night. It's, what folks like to do. And, there's 2 that come to mind. They are pretty recent also. There was the one for the 2019-2020 season when they opened the season against Montreal right after, all the offer sheet stuff. That was so obviously a lot of folks were looking forward to that game. And yeah, he ended up going into shootout on opening night, and then Peter Mrazek, got the Hurricanes the win, stood tall for him. And man, oh man, I know I'm sure a lot of you guys were at that game. Whoo boy, that place went absolutely ballistic. I remember, before the game even started, Cam Ward, he was a siren sounder. Like you couldn't even hear his announcement. Wade Mentors announcing Ward was the siren sounder because it was so loud for him. And it's obviously the same way every opening night with Rod Brind'amour. You ain't hearing what Mentor has to say when Rod Brind'amour walks out. Like everyone's just going to blow out their vocal cords cheering for him. And then believe it was it last season? I believe it was last season when they opened against the Islanders. Uh that one was fun. Or was it last season or the season before? And they opened against the Islanders. It was Anderson's first season. It was the season before. Um And, it was I went with my dad to that one, and that one was just super, super fun. That was the first opening night he and I had been to together. So, it was just a really, really fun environment for that one as well, and of course, the Hurricanes getting the win in these games. That was obviously fun. I said the Islanders on nothing, like, crazy game or anything like that. It was just, one that's a special memory. Opening night with my dad. Why wouldn't that be one of your favorite memories of, going and doing that? And then, of course, last year against Columbus, that one was fun. Being the 25th anniversary, the flags that they gave out, the stuff they did on the ice. It was all super, super fun. And like I mentioned earlier, when talking about Brent Burns, how he quickly endeared himself to Hurricanes fans, with him getting a bit scrappy with some of the Columbus players. That was super fun also. So, you look at this stuff, opening night is always really fun. These fans, they've been waiting, months and months, for this stuff to come back. And it's here. The energy is unreal in these games. And now the fact that the Hurricanes are competitive year after year, the energy is just that much better than it was, say 10 years ago, when they weren't all that great. So you look at these and it's always super fun. And like I said, I also reached out to, other Locked On NHL hosts, and Nick from the Locked On Flames show. Yeah, he said, one of his favorite ones was Elias Anderson face planting. I mean, obviously that stuff is fun, but Rachel from Locked On Flyers, she had a great one, and it's one that potential hot take I kind of wish the Hurricanes would do is finding out what the Flyers goal horn song will be for the season. And something like that, it's going to be great. Whether it be for the team or for individual players where you don't know until they finally score that goal. That's got to be so fun. Like, oh, what's it going to be this year? What's it going to be this man? Yeah, like I said, potential hot take. I kind of wish the Hurricanes would change it up a little bit when it came to the goal song. Just for a bit more variety and whatnot. But that stuff is obviously so much fun, and I'd love to know what y'all's favorite open night memories, things to look forward to, whatever it may be, or favorite open night traditions that you may do. Like, all right, you're not at a game. What are you doing at home? What are you doing at the game? Do you have a particular place you go to first? Make sure you let me know down in the YouTube comments or on the socials at Jared Ellis _96 or at LO _Hurricanes. Let me know. I really want to know what your guys' favorite opening night memories and traditions are. I'd love to know this. So make sure you let me know, folks. And in the next episode, we'll obviously be recapping opening night. Really looking forward to that, folks. Make sure you enjoy this game, whether you're watching from home, at PNC Arena, at your favorite restaurant, whatever it may be. Have fun, folks. Hockey season is finally here for the Hurricanes. So, as always, folks, let's go Canes. And I guess this year, let's cause some chaos.